Welcome to the Autospeed podcast, home of stock car and banger racing in the southwest.
Drivers, start your engine.
Love the vans.
Brilliant!
Warm in here, I can see why you don't seem so keen to get off home.
A lot of people would just probably hear 2 or 3 words and switch it off anyway.
Welcome to the Autospeed podcast. I'm Crispen Rosevear. This week's episode was recorded with Easter on the horizon, and later on, commentator Johnnie Adams will underline the excitement that abounds for the trio of race meetings with Autospeed in what promises to be a sensational 4-day spell. But before we focus on Easter, I was delighted to chat with a young man who already has a long association with Autospeed. From his early days as a quiet, shy lad racing in the Ministox, to the confident, intelligent and outgoing guy that he has become, Aiden Vincent has been at the hub of racing via a range of roles. Pursuing a career in the ever-evolving world of media, Aiden assisted with the BBC's We Are England documentary, which centred on the plight of the United Downs Raceway St Day. Aiden could not have been better located to help. He was the ultimate Johnny on the spot, with his family home being just the other side of the road from the circuit. His involvement with the BBC crew in August 2021 stemmed from his pacey YouTube offering, Why We Need to Save United Downs Raceway, which exploded into life in November 2020, attracting more than 5,000 views and receiving universal praise. As Aiden will explain, his university course included a detailed project for which he immersed himself in a world he knew well, Ministox. I thoroughly enjoyed catching up with Aiden, and I hope that is evident from the fun and cheery tone of our conversation. So, welcome Aiden.
Hello.
How is it? Every podcast seems to start like this, with just random laughter for no particular reason.
That's the way.
So, for someone so young, your involvement has really been quite extensive. It's not far short of saying, you name it, you've done it. From starting out with your own racing, obviously in the minis and a little bit racing on the grass, to producing, I guess in terms of Autospeed land, is that high-speed, fast-moving video you did as part of Save United Downs Raceway?
Yeah, I think to be fair, it surprised me how much Autospeed and this track's been a part of everything really in the last 10 years, I guess. It's a bit weird. Like racing obviously was a big part of everything growing up. All my mates were just free racing, especially because living out here, there's not any local kids around to play with, so it was sort of racing was all my mates, was my life really. And then moved away, and then somehow came back to do my main uni project at the track I raced at, and my first proper TV job was also at the track I grew up racing on as well. So I moved 300 miles away from home to do a degree, and then come back literally across the road to film the final project for it. So we sort of went full circle, to be fair,
Yeah, 300 miles away and ended up working 300 yards away.
Yeah. Just
over the fence, really. So going back to when you were really young then, you started off and you were doing a bit of racing on the grass.
Yeah, so sort of grew up watching my dad race. I think he started when I was 2 or 3 down Cornwall Raceways in St Kevin. Remember just growing up watching him. He was my hero really. Just seeing him race was just sick. There's so many old videos I got of him just dominating the meeting, and me just screaming on from the side. The whole family would go. It was a proper big event. And then obviously he started going to Westworld then, and I started watching him there as well. And I sort of the whole time I was just watching him grow up, waiting to turn 10 so I could race. And then by the time I turned 10, Westworld was gone. So I went down St Kevin. I remember saying to my dad, I was I wish I could skip my 10th birthday and go to my 11th birthday so I could race. But then I was oh wait, I can race when I'm 10 and just do it down the grass. So I had a Vauxhall Nova in the grass stocks down there. There was only 2 of us, but we raced around with all the other minis. It was loads of classic minis and 2 sort of junior rod type looking things. And I won most races, but I did roll the only other driver in my first ever race coming out of turn 4. I'm this little tiny 10-year-old with his glasses on and his helmet, oblivious what I'm doing. I'm going quite quick somehow, but I just lent this guy into a tyre, and there's a picture of me driving out turn 4 and he's just upright behind me. I get out the car completely oblivious, chuffed, I've won my first race, and there's some other kid who's just his car's battered. But it was a good first season, but it was definitely a good learning curve. And came here to do Ministox, did my test day.
I can remember your test day because there was you and there was Ethan Pope.
Yeah.
I remember the 2 of you walking around, and it's always great looking back at the kids who start out in minis and everything, when they come to do the tests, and I always remember the two of you being like sort of a little bit nervous, a little bit apprehensive, which is how it should be for coming to do a test. It shouldn't be a walk in the park. So yeah, I can remember that.
That test day was weird because it was almost like the best I did in my car for a good 4 years. Because I remember, I think I still was just in that like, at that age you don't really have any fear, or a bit of like, you've got no brain cells at that point, have you? You're just sort of driving the car around. So I remember I've got the videos at my test day and I'm just going really well, and then I somehow started my first race. First ever race was here, I think like the day after the test, and somehow, because I'm an idiot, I lined up with the white roofs instead of off the back, even though I had a black cross. And obviously because I didn't know what I was doing, I just turned in, I think I was on Emily Hector, turn 1, got spun round, just got piled up into the wall, and then for the next 3 years I basically just bottled it and just lost all my balls. And then I don't know how my dad kept letting me race, to be fair, because I rewatched some of like my races then. I just go out, pull wide for any red roof that came past, and then it took me till I was like 15 to actually like get going to any good speed again. But yeah, I look back on my Ministox career and I loved it. It was sick. Like, it was all my like, best mates. It was so good. I would pay stupid amount of money to try it again, but I did waste a lot of it being a bit of a wuss, I think. But
but so much of that is obviously evolved from, as you say, if you had a poor experience in race 1, it's just it's a difficult start to bounce back from, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah, I think it just knocked my confidence a lot. I think especially when at that age, it's like if you're confident, there's nothing to stop you, because you've got no brain cells, you're just flying around. But then once you get one negative thought in your head, that's all you're thinking about. And yeah, I think if I just somehow knew what I was doing and started off the back in that race, it could have been very different, but I don't know.
Different, yeah. I remember the bit from the video you did about saving the track and everything. I remember that fairly impassioned speech about how important it was for you away from racing, and how it brought you out of just being, I don't know, really shy young kid that just wanted to play games in your own room, to coming out. And that was a really strong point that came from it.
I find it weird because now it sounds silly, but like with like F1 and other stuff like that, it's a bit more mainstream. Motorsport in general is like a more popular, but especially like, well, I know it sounds like back in my day, but, only 10 years ago, it was like no one was really into F1. There was no one to really talk about racing with, and that was sort of my only thing I really liked doing like that, apart from like making dodgy videos. But then again, it sort of, motorsport gave me all my friend group, it then gave me something to do on the weekends, and then it got me out of the house, and then eventually it did lead to me making more videos and like trying a bit of that. And like I remember one day there was a season when my car was just constantly breaking down. It was called Old Smoky, or we called it Thomas because it was Thomas Tank Engine, because it was smoke. But in literal write-up for the meeting, I think it was referred to as Old Smoky because I would just be smoking down the whole back straight. And I remember it broke down in like practice or race 1. So I went home, got my camera, came back over and just took pictures for the whole meeting. Yeah. And I remember that being like a very weird point where I sort of was upset I wasn't racing, but I just was like, I can't think about it, I have to just go and do something else and get my camera. But yeah, it's a bit weird how everything sort of is still all centered around over racing. But yeah, it was big for me when I was in that age, especially because it's like, I live quite far away from where I went to school, and again, there's not many people around here anyway. Yeah. And obviously, if you don't have a car, you can't really can't walk all the way to Helston from here anyway. No,
tricky stuff. So, at what point in your life, sounds fairly dramatic to put it like that, but what point in your life did you know that that's what you wanted to do when you left school, and that you were going to go to university in Manchester?
Yeah. So, I don't know. I always find it weird. I was very obsessed with like YouTube and like the internet and all that sort of stuff from being quite young. It was like my 2 dream jobs as a kid was I wanted to be a race driver or a YouTuber. That was always sort of what I thought. And then didn't even think about joining the two till I was already in university, thinking, why don't I just make videos about racing? It's like the 2 passions sort of joined. But I remember there was a video, the Formula 1 used to do like race edits after each Grand Prix, and they used to be up on the website. And I remember like religiously going on there and just watching through all of them. It's just like little music video montages of just the action, and I was like, this is sick, I want to make these. And then I think that's just how I got into thinking of like, how do I even make videos? And then that sort of progressed from there, and then the obsession with YouTube sort of grew, and then racing grew as well, and now it all just sort of joined back. I think I sort of didn't fall out of love of oval racing. It was just, I think after doing minis, it was a bit like, I just felt like I embarrassed myself quite a little bit, because I was like, my mates, obviously you're still mates in like how good you are on the track or not, but they'd come off and they'd be like, oh yeah, national champion, like points champion. I'm like, yeah, but I'm a blue roof. Like I never got to red roof, and I always felt so salty about it. But even though it doesn't make much difference, like it all depends on who you're racing with. I'll just use the excuse of, I started when Gilbert was about, and then Cameron Lawrence was about when I was there, all the fast drivers, but I mean, I just wasn't good enough most of the time. But yeah, I think, just being around motorsport, it just sort of was grained into me, and it just seemed a natural fit when I was like, well, what do I want to make my final uni project about? What am I passionate about? And I just told someone at my university, my lecturer, about like, what I used to do, like what I'd done Ministox, and everyone on the table stopped and sort of like were just asking questions, because to me it's normal that there's kids that drive around in cars and that they're told to hit, but to a lot of people it's a bit random, it's a bit weird, especially when I add like the parent aspect where the parents kick off at each other and all the other stuff that, the carnage. But yeah, I think I've just completely waffled on from the question, but
no, but that's great, because that's where I was leading and trying to head this to get you to explain a little bit more about your university course and what was that course, and what projects did you have to do as part of that?
Yeah, so I did TV and radio production at the University of Salford, which is just outside Manchester. I studied in Media City, which is like where the BBC is, ITV, Coronation Street's across the road. It's all sort of in that area. So obviously it's very different from Cornwall. It's different from having United Downs on your doorstep anyway. So it's
very different.
Very different, ITV, United Downs, very similar locations. The course was, obviously speaks for itself, TV and radio, but because of COVID especially as well, first year I had no COVID, so did a bit of everything, but then by the time we actually got to the real learning point, you sort of had to specify what you wanted to do, you narrowed down, and obviously COVID didn't help getting much practical stuff. But I started narrowing in on documentaries and sort of podcast type stuff, and then really enjoyed making documentaries, and then that's how it sort of evolved into be, okay, my big final project, what's it going to be? And then racing sort of was what became obvious and apparent.
Of course, and then you touched upon it earlier when you assisted with the BBC documentary, the We Are England documentary they did at the United Downs Raceway. Mm-hmm. That was interesting, I imagine.
That was, I think you might have helped that. I think I just got a random phone call one day from an unknown number, and I just picked it up, and it was like, oh, it's such and such from the BBC. I'm like, well, why are you ringing me? And then I think they were looking for drivers to follow for that documentary, and then I just got talking. I was like, oh, I'm not a driver, but I do similar stuff. I'm next door if you need someone just to help you on the day.
Yes. And
it actually turned out quite well for everyone, because obviously I got good experience. It's good for your CV. Obviously you work with the BBC, and then for them they had like someone who was with them all the time with the camera, but also knew how the day would work. And because obviously you're busy on the race day, aren't you? You can't be chauffeuring around. But so I remember the saloons were on, and someone had dropped oil around turn 1, turn 2 or something. I was like, right, I was like, I'm only like the bottom of the barrel, right? Like, film there right now.
You were like the director.
They come around the corner, buffs the stage, up, over and around. I'm like, there you go. I told you. But I mean, it was a sick experience. And I think it was just so weird that it happened to be in the exact spot and the exact place where I was racing before.
Absolutely. You are correct that yes, I did forward you at the start, at the outset of that, when they were looking for people to help. I also, thinking back on that day, when we had finished practice, and the two people that were filming and putting it all together, and the lady from the BBC said, "I'm so excited," and I shouldn't really be, because I'm not really that bothered about cars and motor racing, but she said, "I've really got into this." She said, "But I am just terrified by these saloons." And then the next minute we had that almighty crash with Richard Regan and Junior Buster, which was photographed from every angle, and it was just a real feature of the day.
Yeah.
And to think that you sort of had the premonition of spotting it, so you need to film that corner. So that was interesting as well. And then the final project, elaborate a bit more on that. Talk to me a little bit more about the project you did.
Obviously on your uni degree you usually have like a dissertation, like a big thing you write at the end. Mm-hmm. But for my course, it's meant to be quite practical, and I prefer stuff like that. I had the option to either just make one big final project or write my dissertation, and obviously I'm Cornish, so spelling isn't my strong suit, so I was like, right, let's get the camera out. So basically over the course of three-ish months I sort of produced, planned, arranged so much paperwork, and then obviously filmed and then edited and everything like that. A whole big project around Ministox, and basically ended up being around the British Championship in the end. There was loads of back and forth. So at the start, the British Championship date wasn't announced yet, and there was no championships in the time window I had, so I was a bit stressed, like, right, let's do about the Scottish drivers, because at least there's always something up there, they're always crazy, and then it all just sort of fell into place a little bit. But ended up following Alfie Tompkins, so pretty much mainly for the race day. That was, I think it helped that I knew what was going on with the races and that I could come for loads of races before and I felt there was no like uncomfortable, I knew where I was, my surroundings were familiar sort of thing.
Of course.
But I made sort of following him in his pursuit to try and win the British Championship. Didn't end up winning the British Championship, but still a lot of stuff happened and it almost worked out better than it didn't in terms of like how it looked on camera almost. I thought, it could almost have felt like it was some kind of Hollywood scripted event, whereas you got it and it was, you got the story that you got was just full of realism and it was just very authentic, wasn't it? I think a lot, especially with racing, it's just, and when I make an A-Sign documentary, it's not scripted, but it is to a part. Like, I knew already how the video was going to look before we filmed any of it. I came to, it must have been 3 or 4 meetings here before. It was only meant to be around the one race meeting, but I came to here, put a GoPro in every angle in his car for all these different races just to use at a different point. I've got footage of you like at the start of the race looking out the window at the cars going, but that's from 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah.
And it was just like sort of piecing it together over the time. And I think, again, like being comfortable, knowing everyone, like obviously you helped a lot by letting me just come and just roam around. I mean, in the final, I think there's a video my girlfriend got from me when I was filming. Like, it was obviously championship final, the Ministox. It was peeing it down with rain, absolutely torrential.
Yes, horrible.
Not a single yellow flag. So there's me running up and down the middle of the track at Smeet Farm, trying to get through the corner, trying to capture everything going on. And it was just like, I was like, they'll throw a yellow in a minute, I'll have time to reset, and there was just nothing. It was just absolute chaos. The rain came down, I was just running around like an idiot. I was like, I've got nothing. But then like, you just capture, it said the real stuff, the real emotions of racing, which is why I wanted to do it in the first place. Like, we had a GoPro in his car, and he pulled in after, losing this race after getting battered by Hardy the whole time, and it was like a fought battle for 5th, and then he gets out of his car and his wheel just falls down and just hangs there and just jiggles. It's like you just hold it for you, like that is like that wheel was a paid actor. You couldn't script that.
Yeah, no, that was film art, wasn't it?
And I got to say big thanks to Alfie and all his family and stuff. They helped me. They just let me, because they'd never met me before really. Just like, oh, can I just whack a GoPro in a car with your child here? Just.
But I think that would be systematic of pretty much everything to do with our racing. We're you and I, we're very, very used to this community, is what we've grown up with. And I think that we would recognise and understand that everyone here, almost without exception, would be very accommodating, I think.
Yeah, I think, again, it's very Southwest thing as well, that everyone's quite friendly and like happy. And I think especially because it was weird, the time I made my documentary was just after the BBC one, so everyone was a bit more used to cameras being around. But I remember when I was racing, it was like, DT Videos was like big time, and I was just one person on the roof with a camera, wasn't it? So I think seeing like some, especially people who recognised me from racing before, like running around with a camera, it was like they'd be open to talk to me. Like I knew all the parents, and obviously they're all a bit older now, but you sort of got to know everyone again, and they were like, oh yeah, all right, I haven't seen you in ages, yeah, we'll do a little interview. And it's just it helped a lot to know the community. I think I wanted it to almost be, and it's going to sound awfully cringy, but like almost a love letter to the sport a little bit, to sound a bit cringy as hell, but that's sort of what it was, because it was my childhood really, and I wanted to capture the essence of what it was. Because when I tried to describe to people, I like grew up country in like a big city. I live on a farm in the middle of wasteland, and there's a oval track there where we get in Mad Max style cars and bash into each other, and also the parents all hate each other and I think everyone's cheating. You just start to describe the world to them, they're like, what's the banger driver's name? It's just it's a bit of a weird world.
For sure, to get that message across to people that have not seen it, yes, that's a challenge in itself, for sure. Yeah, most definitely. Just before we close, and that's been really interesting, you've had your racing in the, as you say, on the grass with a Nova, and then an okay, well, plenty of fun at least in the Ministox.
I had a Ministox career. Let's not go to how good or bad it may have been.
All right, let's not analyse too.
When I was off White Roof, that time when I was 15, I cleared up, mate. But I shouldn't have been off White Roof when I was 15.
Well, these things happen. And then of course here at the open track day at Johnnie Adams, you had a little bit of a run out in your dad's car. Managed to push Simon out of the seat for a couple of rounds.
Yeah, well, obviously I grew up racing the minis, and my dad's done stock rods from wherever, won the championships and stuff, and he said to me, oh yeah, you can have a go in my car and a practice, when I was still in the minis. I was like, all right, I'll have it a go. Because I knew I wanted to go to university. I was like, okay, I don't need to race after minis because it will only be 2 years before I got to leave anyway. So I never got around to actually having a go in one. And I kept being like, let me have a go. Like, I just want to, non-contact never really appealed to me. Not that I was, big into hitting anyway. Just the whole, I think I don't have the patience for non-contact really. But then eventually, finally I got to go, and it was at the track day, and I was just surprised by how quick they are. Like, I think my dad said they are the quickest formula. I think they'd just be at the F2s. I think it might not be on certain tracks, but it's very close either way.
I guess with the power to weight ratio, it's a little lightweight car that's, the type of racing is you as fast as you can down the straight, get it around the corner as fast as you can down the next straight. And I think it is a little bit built for that. And it doesn't surprise me when you say you are a little bit shocked and taken aback as to how quick the thing is.
It's a lock diff as well. It's very weird to get used to, because I was like, my dad's explaining to me, he's like, yeah, so if you're going towards the wall, put your foot down, else you will hit the wall. I'm like, wait, that's like opposite of what your brain wants to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've thought this entire time, he said to me, if you turn left too much, you'll pop the drive shaft out and it's broken. So I'm going out to try and get the pits, like barely turning left. This man, I looked at his GoPro footage, he's going full lock left round the corner. I was like, you are a lion, man. But I really enjoyed it. I've had the GoPro in the car the entire time. The first lap, I think it got yellow flagged after 2 laps of me going around. And just hear me going like, what the? So I couldn't believe how it just shot away and you had no time to think. And obviously I've not raced around an oval in ages anyway, so I probably forgot what it was like. But then by the second time I was out on it, I got a bit more chilled out and it was quite enjoyable. But just want more running time really. I only had 2 goes, but I have got a stock rod now for like the odd race meeting and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just getting a case of getting it ready and just doing some meetings now, I think. Because I've just been itching to race since I've sort of left over racing for a bit, went to uni. I was like, now I can't do it. All I want to do is do it. I think especially coming back from my final project, all I was seeing was, I went to God knows how many race meetings last year for the first time. I went years without coming to any, and then I went to like 6, 7, 8 even last year. Went to Skegness with my dad and all that stuff, and just being around it all was just like, I want to go, I want to get in it, and I'm doing the mechanics with my dad. Like, I want to race. It's what I enjoy doing. It's like, I just want to get in the car. And, he's getting a bit older. He's still, John Tate was out there till he was like 900. So Dad can still be going around, but, 2 cars is fine.
Good stuff. So that's so you've got a car, and you're saying that hopefully when you've got a bit of a target for when your first meeting might be?
Yeah, so obviously we have the Aiden Vincent meeting every year. Dad won it last year, finally. So the plan originally was for me to drive his car for that meeting this year, and then he was going to race Adam's car. But I think basically now I've got my own car to race around and then do the odd meeting when I'm home. Yeah. Because I obviously still live in Manchester, and then he's got his car he can then drive around as well. So I think it should work. We'll see how we get on, but it's going to be very expensive. Need some sponsors. Anyone want to sponsor me? Let me know. Yeah,
what an ideal opportunity. Yeah, star of YouTube, star local celebrity. Yeah, there you go.
Might have a good first meeting, but after that, we'll see.
Well, Aiden, we're obviously going to wish you the very best for that, and thanks for joining us today. That's been really interesting.
Enjoyed it.
Terrific.
Thank you.
So that was Aiden. And if you look at the details of this episode, you'll find the links to some fabulous footage on Aiden's YouTube channel. Turning our attentions briefly to Easter, and there are 3 race meetings to enjoy. Here's Johnnie Adams with his enthusiastic take on things.
Easter is going to be epic. I was really, really looking forward to the start of the season because of the new cars, some new drivers, but the Easter, the 3 days over Easter, is going to be off the scale. We've got saloon stock cars on all three
3 days, yeah.
You've got Brisker Formula 2s on 2. You've got
your favourites, the stock rods.
Of course. And I make no apologies for being a great fan of the stock rods, which again I think in the last 3 seasons have come on in leaps and bounds. They really are. They were cruelly known as the burger formula for a long time. Stock rods come on the track, we'll go and get a burger, but now they are at there with the best. They are absolutely brilliant. Yep,
terrific numbers, booming in terms of numbers. The standard of car preparation has improved immeasurably. Yeah. Good car numbers, good cars, good racing, and just a lot more exciting than they used to be, I think.
And the spirit between the drivers as well. So getting back to the family thing, you have a family within a family. You've got the Autospeed family, but then you've got the stock rod family, because it's like the saloon stock cars. They beat each other to death on the track, but they're all helping each other to get back out there. And the stock rods are the same.
Yes, yeah.
And I also like the rivalry we had in last year with the World Final at the United Downs between the Scottish and the English. And of course then you got the Irish as well, so yeah, it's a great formula and I really enjoy it. And again, you have lady drivers, you've got a good cross-section of people. People are spending a lot of money and people who are not spending a lot of money mixing it together. And my new man that's I've noticed, was he Mr. Showtime?
Johnny Showtime. Johnny Salvage,
The Formula
375.
needs someone like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember seeing him last season, and yeah, it made me smile, but yeah. And again, another driver's absolutely winning him to win a race. But yeah, it's great, very, very good. Yeah.
Okay,
Love
so
the
excellent,
stock rods.
great stuff, and excellent Easter ahead. Well, John, thanks for joining us on this episode.
My pleasure, absolutely enjoy it. Always enjoy chatting with you, Crispen. It's good fun.
No doubt we'll be talking some more as the season goes along.
Yeah, look forward to that.
Thank you, John.
All the best.
To recap, the action begins at Smeathorpe on Good Friday, with more than 40 Briscoe Formula 2 stock cars and more than 20 saloon stock cars, on a day which marks exactly 49 years since the circuit opened back in 1974. The big bangers will be an old school action, and the youngsters in the Ministox will race at Smeathorpe for the first time this year. 2 days later, we'll be at the United Downs Raceway St Day. That is on Easter Sunday, when saloon stock cars will contest their Western Championship. The bangers are due out in force too, and the day also features lots of stock rods and the latest meeting for the Ministox. To complete the Easter weekend, it is Smeathorpe again on Easter Monday. It's another day for Briscoe Formula 2 stock cars and saloon stock cars, plus the first of this season's old school meetings for 2 litre bangers. But the big attraction on Easter Monday will be Caravan Chaos. Advanced tickets are flying out the door, and Easter Monday will be an extremely busy day at Smeathorpe. Again, underlining just how much folk love to see caravans obliterated. The advice, get there early. In next week's episode, we will be reviewing that busy Easter period, and we look forward to you joining us again then, when episode 9 of the Autospeed podcast will return to its customary Friday slot.
If you've enjoyed Autospeed Podcast, home of stock car and banger racing in the Southwest, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell for future podcasts.
It's all just like knowing the talk. You got a waffle, and then if it's a bit boring, you can cut it out in the end, don't you?